Have you ever wondered what it would be like to face every challenge in life with calmness, without letting emotions or fear take control? What would it be like to find peace, no matter what happens around you? This curiosity led me to accept a challenge, to put Stoicism into practice for 30 consecutive days, applying the principles of this ancient philosophy in my daily life. During this period, I aimed to live like the great Stoics who shaped this wisdom: Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius. Thinkers who, despite the adversities they faced, achieved unwavering serenity and inner strength. Now I want to share with you what this experience brought to me. Throughout these 30 days, I applied lessons on self-control, resilience, acceptance, and above all, the core idea that we have control only over our own actions and reactions. Today I invite you to walk with me on this journey, to discover what it means to live Stoicism in practice. So if you too want to strengthen your mind, find serenity, and understand what it means to be unshakable, I invite you to join me on this journey. After all, can we really change the way we live in just 30 days? Chapter 1. The beginning of the Stoic journey. Before starting this challenge, I needed to answer a fundamental question. What is Stoicism, after all? What is the origin of this philosophy that so many seek in their pursuit of inner peace and strength? Stoicism arose over 2,000 years ago in Athens through the philosopher Zeno of Citium, and quickly gained followers who sought a virtuous and fulfilling life. Over time, this philosophy expanded and was consolidated by the teachings of masters like Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius. At its core, Stoicism teaches that true freedom comes from within, and that we can find peace by focusing on what is within our control and accepting what we cannot change. On the first day, the idea was simple: observe my thoughts and reactions. Instead of trying to control everything around me, I set out to focus on what was truly within my reach. Of course, this is not easy. In each challenging situation, I needed to ask myself, do I have control over this? Think about moments like being stuck in traffic or an endless line, and then ask yourself, what is my real power here? This practice brought to mind Epictetus's words, "It's not events that disturb us, but our views of them." The idea is simple yet impactful. Instead of reacting impulsively, I began to observe. Every time I felt anger, anxiety, or frustration, I would ask myself, am I really in control of this situation? And just asking this question started to change how I viewed circumstances. If the first day brought such clarity, imagine what the next 30 days might reveal. Join me on this journey because there is much more to explore. Chapter 2. The challenge of mastering emotions. On the second day of the challenge, a question began to echo in my mind. Is it truly possible to control my emotions, no matter what happens around me? Stoicism teaches that we are not prisoners of our emotions, but can we actually keep them in check? At that moment, I remembered a quote from Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor. If you are troubled by something external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your perception of it, and you have the power to change that perception. Faced with an unexpected delay, I felt frustration rising, a natural reaction for anyone. However, this time, instead of letting irritation take over, I did something different. I stopped and took a deep breath. I focused on Marcus Aurelius's reminder that I had the power to choose my response. This brief pause, this conscious choice to view the situation from a different angle, showed me that I didn't need to be a hostage to my impulses. Every moment of stress or annoyance was, in fact, an opportunity to practice serenity. Epictetus once said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." At that moment, I realized how easy it was to think I had control over my reactions. But in practice, it was much different. Accepting that this would be a daily exercise, a constant practice to remain calm amid small frustrations, required humility. On the second day, I learned that it's not about eliminating emotions, but understanding and redirecting them. Each irritation, each moment of discomfort, became a reminder that I was in control of my mind, even when the world around me seemed chaotic. This was only the second day, and with each new experience, Stoic practice revealed new challenges. Gradually, I began to see that serenity is within reach, but it requires effort and intention. In the next chapter, you will see how I dealt with the uncertainties and unexpected events that arose, teaching me even more about the true power of self-knowledge. Chapter 3. Embracing the Unexpected. By the third day of the challenge, I felt I was starting to gain some control over my emotions. However, I soon realized that Stoicism is not just about self-control, it's also about how we respond to what is beyond our control. How should we react when the unexpected disrupts our plans? This was when Stoic practice truly became challenging. I faced a situation where things simply didn't go as I had planned. Frustration and discouragement arose immediately. But instead of getting lost in those feelings, I recalled Seneca's words, "Accept willingly all that happens, for nothing occurs without reason." This touches on one of the most profound principles of Stoicism, amor fati, meaning not only to accept but to embrace everything that happens to us, including challenges and setbacks. At first, this wasn't easy and I resisted the idea, but soon I realized that fighting against the inevitable only made things harder. So I began practicing amor fati, repeating to myself, "This too is part of my path." Each difficulty and unexpected event became less of an obstacle and more of an opportunity to exercise resilience. Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations reminds us, "What stands in the way becomes the way." It was on the third day that I began to see the unforeseen not as enemies but as essential parts of the journey. Practicing love for one's fate is liberating. Instead of resisting what I couldn't control, I started viewing each situation as a necessary step in my growth. Through this, Stoicism began to teach me that there is immense power in accepting life as it is, without demanding it follow our plans. Every unexpected situation became a chance to see how much I could grow and become stronger, with love. Chapter 4. The Wisdom of Remembering Mortality. By the fourth day of the challenge, a deep reflection began to emerge. What does it truly mean to live well? For the Stoics, a fulfilling life begins with the awareness that it is transient. This is where the concept of memento mori, the constant reminder of our mortality, comes in. Memento mori, the act of remembering that we are finite. To some, this might seem grim, but for the Stoics, it is a liberating practice. Marcus Aurelius said, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." On this fourth day, I decided to put this idea into practice. I began to see each moment, every conversation, and every decision as if they were unique. I asked myself, am I truly living according to what I value? This reflection transformed my perspective. Instead of taking the day for granted, I started viewing it as an opportunity, one that might not come again. This exercise of remembering that each moment is precious and limited encouraged me to act with more presence and attention. I realized that time is our most precious resource, and that wasting it is one of the biggest mistakes we can make. The Stoics believe that by facing our mortality, we come to appreciate every second, which brings clarity about what truly matters. Epictetus said, "Death and pain are inevitable, but what matters is how we face them." From that day forward, I began to see each moment as a chance to live more fully and consciously. The fourth day of my Stoic challenge showed me that remembering our finitude isn't a cause for sadness, but a reminder to seek what truly has value. In the end, living well is approaching each day as if it were the last, not with fear but with gratitude and purpose. Chapter 5. Virtue, the Path to Fulfillment. On the fifth day of my Stoic challenge, a central idea began to solidify. What does it truly mean to live a fulfilling life? For the Stoics, the answer is simple and direct. It's living according to virtue. Virtue for them is not just a trait but the very path to a life of true value. The ancient Stoics believed that virtue, moral excellence, is the highest good we can achieve. Epictetus stated, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And Marcus Aurelius reminds us that living in harmony with virtue is what truly sets us free. I started asking myself with each decision, am I acting in line with my values? Is this a virtuous choice? This simple exercise began to transform my actions. Instead of acting on impulse or choosing what was easiest, I aimed to act according to what was right. Virtue led me to view each situation as an opportunity for growth. In moments when impatience or selfishness arose, I tried to follow Seneca's advice: to be good is more difficult than to be powerful. Practicing virtue requires discipline and effort, but it also brings a sense of peace and purpose. I realized that by striving to live virtuously, daily dilemmas became clearer. Each choice was guided by what was just and good, rather than by what I desired in the moment. And this brings a freedom that is hard to describe but easy to feel, the freedom to be true to oneself and to one's principles. On the fifth day, I understood that virtue is the essence of a fulfilling life. It guides our actions, strengthens our spirit, and brings us closer to what is eternal within us. Chapter 6. Connection and Community, Stoicism in Relationships. On the sixth day, I began to understand that Stoicism goes beyond our own well-being. Marcus Aurelius said that we are all part of the same organism. We are not isolated but interconnected within a community, which means our actions affect one another. The great Stoics teach us that we have a social role, a responsibility toward others. To live fully, we need to cultivate fair relationships based on empathy and respect. This doesn't mean pleasing everyone, but acting with sincerity and honesty in our intentions and actions. Before practicing Stoicism, I would often react quickly to conflicts and misunderstandings. But on the sixth day, I started applying what the Stoics call equanimity. When a disagreement arose, I sought to listen, understand, and respond calmly, without being driven by the impulse to win the argument. Seneca said, "When dealing with others, remember that you too were once imperfect and still are." This phrase taught me to view others' mistakes with the same patience I use for my own. Instead of criticism, I sought understanding. Instead of irritation, I chose empathy. This daily exercise of putting myself in the other's place transformed my relationships. I discovered that by cultivating patience and respect, Stoicism helps us build more authentic and harmonious connections. After all, by strengthening ourselves internally, we also become more present and open to those around us. On the sixth day, I learned that living with virtue does not mean isolating oneself, but rather contributing to a more just and respectful coexistence. Many challenges lie ahead, but each new day shows me that Stoicism is more than just an individual philosophy. It's a practice for living in community. Chapter 7. Resilience. Growing through obstacles. On the seventh day of my Stoic challenge, I faced an adversity that tested me intensely. In the past, I might have responded with frustration or even given up, but with Stoicism, my perspective on obstacles shifted completely. For the Stoics, every difficulty is an opportunity for growth. Instead of resisting the problem, I accepted the challenge to face it. I recalled Epictetus's words, "Do not seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for them to happen as they do, and you will have peace." Adopting this mindset was transformative. I began to see obstacles not as limits, but as part of my learning process. This practice showed me that resilience is built when we continue to look forward, even amidst difficulties. Each barrier that seemed insurmountable became a chance to strengthen my patience, my determination, and my ability to move forward with calm regardless of circumstances. The Stoics teach us that no challenge is insurmountable if we are willing to grow through difficulties. Every challenge, every obstacle is like a stone on our path, and by overcoming them, we become stronger and more resilient. On the seventh day, I realized that resilience is true inner strength. By embracing challenges as a natural part of the journey, I found more peace and courage to keep moving forward. Chapter 8. The Virtue of Gratitude. Appreciating the present. On the eighth day, a new Stoic practice began to take on greater importance for me. Gratitude. Stoic philosophy teaches that true contentment comes from within, and that we find peace when we learn to value what we already have, instead of focusing on what we lack. Seneca said that by being grateful for the small things, we discover greatness within our soul. But this practice is not easy. Our daily lives, worries, and the goals we constantly pursue often drive us to want more. I too felt that restlessness. I then started to reflect, don't I already have enough to live a fulfilling life? I began to focus my attention on what was already present in my life. Each simple moment, each detail, became an opportunity to practice gratitude. Instead of noticing what I didn't yet have, I started appreciating what was already there, even the small things that previously went unnoticed. I discovered that gratitude is a powerful practice for finding serenity. Each time I paused to appreciate what I had, I felt a sense of calm and wholeness. Epictetus reminds us, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. This phrase showed me that true contentment doesn't depend on external achievements, but on our ability to see value in simple things. Practicing gratitude brought a new perspective on life. Instead of constantly seeking more, I began to feel complete with what I already have. This way of thinking brings immense freedom because by living with gratitude, we free ourselves from the endless cycle of wanting more and find happiness in the present. On the 8th day, I learned that true wealth lies in our ability to appreciate the present. Gratitude allows us to see what truly matters and teaches us that happiness is within reach when we take the time to observe and give thanks. Chapter 9. Detachment. The freedom of living without excess. On the 9th day of the challenge, the practice of detachment became essential to me. Stoicism teaches that true freedom comes from within, and the less we rely on what is external, the freer we become. But is it easy to let go of what surrounds us, what we accumulate, and what we desire? Epictetus reminds us that freedom is an inner achievement. For the Stoics, detachment goes beyond material possessions. It includes our expectations, the opinions of others, and even the outcomes of our actions. What is outside of us does not define who we are or how we feel. This practice led me to see each situation as temporary. When I received unexpected criticism, for example, I realized it didn't have to disrupt my peace. I remembered Marcus Aurelius's words, "Accept everything that comes from outside as natural and transitory." Detachment then means accepting that we have no control over external events, only over our response to them. Every time we let go of what we cannot control, we gain more clarity and freedom. Releasing expectations and external needs helps us live with lightness. I realize that peace comes when we don't depend on external factors, allowing us to live more authentically and with fewer worries. Living with detachment requires courage and self-confidence. Stoicism teaches us that we need nothing beyond our inner strength. By practicing detachment, I found a new way of living, more focused on the present and less weighed down by possessions, judgments, and external pressures. On the 9th day, I learned that detachment doesn't mean having less, but rather living more lightly. It's a practice that frees us to be who we truly are, without the weight of expectations and possessions. Chapter 10. Presence. Living fully in the now. On the 10th day, I began to understand the importance of being fully present. The past and future are only ideas. What we truly have is this present moment. But is it possible to live in the present with complete attention, without being overtaken by concerns about what's coming or what has already passed? Marcus Aurelius reminds us that each moment is precious and that life unfolds now. Throughout the day, I made an effort to return to the present and noticed something simple yet profound. It is in the now that we find peace and clarity. Practicing presence taught me to appreciate each moment, keeping my mind from drifting toward things I cannot control. Epictetus teaches us, if you wish to live well, learn to live in the present. Every time I returned to the present moment, I discovered more balance and contentment. I realized that presence is a practice that requires patience and commitment. Whenever I found myself worried about what was to come, I brought my attention back to the now, took a breath, observed my surroundings, and expressed gratitude for that moment. This simple exercise showed me that the present is where we truly live, and when we learn to be in it, fears and anxieties begin to lose their hold. Being in the present is a choice we need to make each day, a commitment to fully be where we are. Through Stoic practice, I learned that the now is our greatest gift, and each moment we dedicate to it brings more meaning to life. On the 10th day, I realized that peace is found in the present. By living each moment with full attention, we free ourselves from the weight of the past and the anxiety of the future. Chapter 11. Accepting change, embracing impermanence. On the 11th day, I began to reflect on an unavoidable truth. Everything is always changing. In Stoicism, accepting impermanence is a fundamental principle. However, Accepting change is not always easy, especially when we are attached to what is familiar and comfortable. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that the universe is in constant flow and that nothing stays the same forever. For the Stoics, the key to serenity lies in embracing this reality and learning to move with it. That day, I decided to apply this wisdom by practicing detachment and accepting the changes life brought my way. Whenever an unexpected change arose, instead of resisting, I remembered Epictetus's words, "Do not seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for them to happen as they do, and you will find peace." This thought helped me see that resisting change only brings suffering, while accepting it opens space for new possibilities. Accepting change is like welcoming the seasons. Each has its own value and beauty. Stoic practice taught me that resistance keeps us trapped, while acceptance frees us, allowing us to live with lightness. When we stop fighting the natural flow of life, we find deep serenity. Embracing change is an act of courage. Through Stoicism, I understood that accepting impermanence does not mean resignation, but rather an openness to the new, to the unexpected, and to growth. With each transition, I felt stronger and more connected to the present. On the 11th day, I realized that accepting change is a path to peace. By embracing impermanence, we make room for the new and allow life to follow its natural course. Chapter 12. Compassion and Connection. Living for the Common Good. On the 12th day, I realized something fundamental. Stoicism is not only a practice for individual strength, but also a way to build connections. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoics, wrote, "We are born for the common good." This led me to reflect on the importance of compassion and just coexistence. For the Stoics, the individual and the community are intertwined. True virtue only makes sense when we also seek the well-being of others, act with kindness, and strive to help where we can. That day I understood that practicing Stoicism also means cultivating empathy, understanding and respect. Each time I exercised compassion and patience with others, I felt the positive impact of this practice on my own inner peace. Compassion reminds us that we are not alone on our journey, and that each person's challenges are opportunities for connection and mutual support. To live well, we must also seek the good around us. These days taught me that while Stoicism values self-sufficiency, it also deeply emphasizes the common good. Epictetus reminds us that we should be patient and kind with the mistakes of others, for we are all learning. By cultivating compassion, I discovered that I was also growing. Kindness strengthens both the giver and the receiver. Compassion is an act of courage, and for the Stoics, one of the highest expressions of virtue. Each day taught me that by practicing empathy and respect, we become more human, more complete, and more connected to what truly matters. To live well is also to live for the good of all. On the 12th day, I understood that Stoicism is a practice that transcends the individual and invites us to be agents of goodness and justice in the world. Final chapter, a new beginning. Stoicism as a way of life. Reaching the end of this challenge was more than just achieving a goal. Over these 30 days, I immersed myself in Stoic teachings, and each day offered a chance to learn more about myself and the world around me. From mastering my emotions to accepting what I cannot change, each principle has become a part of who I am and how I view life. In the coming weeks, these lessons will continue to shape my mind and spirit. I've learned to live with greater simplicity, to embrace silence as an ally, and to see each adversity as a stepping stone for growth. I discovered that Stoicism is more than just a philosophy. It is a path of continuous learning, a call to live with virtue, courage, and compassion. With each lesson, it became clear that Stoicism is not a destination, but a journey that is constantly beginning anew. As Marcus Aurelius said, we should approach each day as an opportunity to become better than we were yesterday. Reaching this point, I realized that this ending is truly a new beginning. Completing these 30 days, I feel that this is just the start of a fuller life, guided by the values that Stoicism teaches us. In the coming weeks, these lessons will continue to shape my mind and spirit. I've learned to live with greater simplicity, to embrace silence as an ally, and to see each adversity as a stepping stone for growth. I discovered that Stoicism is more than just a philosophy. It is a path of continuous learning, a call to live with virtue, courage, and compassion. With each lesson, it became clear that Stoicism is not a destination, but a journey that is constantly beginning anew. As Marcus Aurelius said, we should approach each day as an opportunity to become better than we were yesterday. Reaching this point, I realized that this ending is truly a new beginning. Completing these 30 days, I feel that this is just the start of a fuller life, guided by the values that Stoicism teaches us. I invite you to join me on this path. Discover the strength that lies within you. Learn to live with serenity, with purpose, and with the courage to stay true to your values. Together, we can cultivate inner peace and resilience in the face of any challenge. After all, the Stoic journey is a daily practice, a conscious choice to pursue virtue and balance. Each day you'll find more strength and clarity to become the best version of yourself. This challenge taught me that life is filled with moments that invite us to grow, and now I invite you to walk this path alongside me. Let this Stoic journey be the beginning of a continuous transformation in your life.